Are you thinking about buying a home in the Huntsville area? Buyer beware is the rule in Alabama. Before you fall in love with the kitchen or backyard, don't miss these 7 deal breaking checks. One miss could cost you thousands after closing. Let's go. Now, these systems are in no particular order. They're all critical to when you're buying a home. But the first thing we want to talk about is the roof. It's up on top. Now, the purpose of the roof is not to let water get in the home. If it's an aged roof, no one is going to be able to tell you how old it is unless the current owner knows when it was replaced. Your home inspector can give you a guess of what life is left, but that's what it is a guess. So they're going to look in the attic to see if they see any signs of leaking water coming in. If you see any water stains on the ceiling, that could be an indication that the roof is leaking. If the shingles are curling up, that could be an indication that the roof is old. A roof's an important feature because your insurance company is going to want an idea for how old the roof is before they insure the home. In Alabama, we get a lot of roofs replaced because of hail damage. Now, hail is an accumulative problem, so you have to have 2 or 3 or 4 hailstorms before there's enough damage to replace the roof. But if you see a lot of shingles stacked up in the neighborhood in the driveway, that usually indicates that that neighborhood has had some hail damage. But make sure you check the roof. It's not leaking, it's fairly new, or not really old. It's probably in pretty good shape. Now, 2 systems we'll cover together are plumbing and electrical. In our request for repairs and our inspection addendum here in Huntsville for the Huntsville Board of Realtors, those are 2 systems that have to be in good working order when the home changes ownership. So your home inspector is going to look for things like plumbing leaks, leaky faucets, are the hot and water controls on the right side? Is the shower head putting out the right amount of pressure? What's the pressure of the water going into the home? Is it too high, too low? For electrical systems, you're going to want to know, are the the plug's polarity reversed? Are the GFCIs working? Are there switches that don't work? Are lights that don't work? A lot of times there are exterior lights where the switches are not working. Some of the exterior lights only work in nighttime because they have sensors on them, so you're going to just have to get the homeowner to get a picture of that at night to verify that they're working. But plumbing and electrical are major systems. They need to be inspected. They're most of the time easy to repair, and most of the time the repairs are not expensive, but that is going to be a seller issue if you find problems in those 2 systems. Next, let's take a look at the heat pump. Now, if you're coming to us from up north, that's something new for you. Down in Alabama, we use a heat pump system. It's one unit that provides heating and cooling. Primarily, they're electric units. Some are gas, some are hybrid. But the inspector is going to look at the difference between the air coming out of the vent and the air going back in the return. And if that delta in temperature is big enough, they're going to say the heat pump is okay. If you have additional questions about the heat pump, you're going to need to get a heat pump inspection done. They're not very expensive. They're going to cost $100 or $150. But an HVAC contractor can come out. They actually take the cover off the pump. They'll check freon levels. They'll check for leaks. If the heat pump is less than 5 years old, it's probably still under manufacturer's warranty, and many heat pumps have warranties up through 10 years. But it is a major system. It does need to be checked out. If it's a newer one, you may not have to have a separate inspection. Next, what is the home built on? Is it on a crawl space or is it on a slab? If it's on a slab, the inspector is going to primarily look for structure issues around the perimeter of the property. Now, just because you have a brick siding and it's got some cracks in the brick, that's not necessarily a structural problem. Brick is just a facade. It doesn't support the home at all. There's no structural integrity in the brick. So just talk to your home inspector if you see that. And that causes a lot of concerns, especially for first-time homeowners, because it actually looks like it's an issue, and it really looks more serious than it really is. Now, if you've got a crawl space, you're going to have a home inspection near the end of the period before you close by a termite inspector. They're going to obviously check for termites, active termites, previous infestation, any damage from termites. But if they're in the crawl space, they're also looking for fungus and mold. They're going to see what the moisture levels are in the crawl space, and if they believe there's fungus or mold involved, they're going to require the seller to do a treatment to kill that fungus or mold. Also, if you have a crawl space, you're going to have cinder block on the perimeter, and that's another place where you may see some cracks. It might lead to some foundation questions. Now, if you believe you have foundation issues, those questions cannot be answered by your home inspector. They're not qualified to do that, but we do have structural engineers in the area that we can call. They'll be happy to come out and do an inspection for you and produce a report. Depending on what they do and what they produce, you may be looking at $200, $300, $500, $600 for a structural inspection. But if there is an issue, the advantage of getting that structural inspection is they will identify exactly what needs to be done to have it corrected. And that is going to be a seller issue. Sometimes if they're too large or if they're very expensive, that could cause a home sale to fall apart. The last system we want to talk about are the windows. Now, if it's an older home, it probably has wood windows, and there's nothing wrong with wood windows. The windows are there obviously to provide some insulation from the outside to the inside. The wood windows, if they're working properly, they're going to be fine. They need to all open for egress, for safety reasons. But recent homes are going to have vinyl windows. They are a little more energy efficient. A lot of times with the windows, we see some issues, maybe like one of the seals are broken and a window is fogging. Now, if a window is fogging, that doesn't mean it's not doing its job. It doesn't mean it's not still insulating. And many times the fogging is a cosmetic issue and not an insulation issue. So that may or may not be something that the seller might be responsible for. Now, if a window is cracked or if a pane is broken, those are things that a seller would be responsible for to replace the glass. And many times you can replace the pane without having to replace the whole window. If you have vinyl windows, you also want to check that they're opening and closing correctly. But the insulation value on the vinyl windows is a little better than the wood windows, but wood windows are fine. But it is a major system, and you need to have those checked before you make a purchase. Now, if you're buying a home in the Huntsville area, reach out. We'll be glad to help. We have an inspection addendum that goes with the sales contract in Madison County. It's good for you to get that in advance because there are some procedures involved. There's some timelines involved. And if you miss a timeline, you could lose some of your inspection privileges. But our systems are set up to be fair. We're looking for major defects when we do inspections on existing homes. And if we discover major defects, we're going to ask the seller to correct those before closing. If there's a disagreement about correcting and it can't be resolved, sometimes the contract can be canceled. Now, if you're buying a brand new home, obviously all those systems are brand new. And you're going to be looking more at cosmetic issues in brand new homes than you are these mechanical systems that we've talked about for an existing home. Call or text me. I'll be glad to help any way I can. I hope you have a great day.
Oh.